How do you cut through? How do you connect with audiences in the myriad different ways that we have available to us now, when your time is better spent thinking about the operational concerns of your business? And so that's why businesses work with firms like ours, because you've got somebody who is dedicated to thinking about how do we make this brand show up in a really consistent and positive way over and over again, which has this really profound incremental effect for the business over time.
Kia ora team, Richard Liew here, editor at nzentrepreneur.co.nz, and I'm delighted to be joined by Max Burt. Max is the general manager at OnePlusOne Group. They're specialists in corporate communications, business communications, and what a lot of us would term as PR. So Max, from your offices in Parnell there, thanks for talking to us today.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Cool. Now, for those who haven't heard of OnePlusOne, who are you? What do you do, and who do you do it for?
We are a corporate communications consultancy based in Parnell in Auckland, as you mentioned. We have always had the ambition of being, among the leading firms at what we do in New Zealand. And fortunately, over the last 2 years, we've had the privilege of being recognised by our industry body, so the Public Relations Institute of New Zealand, as the leading corporate communications consultancy in the country. So that's been really gratifying and a cool thing to have happen. In terms of what we actually do practically for businesses, I'm in our boardroom at the moment, which you can't see all of, but when we have, when we interview junior graduates who are coming into our business and we kind of explain to them what we do, there's a lolly jar in the middle of the desk, and I typically grab a fruit burst and I say, in the communications landscape, you've got consumer comms agencies at one end, and they tend to be involved in situations where you're selling the fruit burst to the consumer. And then down the other end of the spectrum, you have corporate communications consultancies like us, where we are often involved in situations where we're helping sell the fruit burst through comms, but also more typically, we're telling the broader story of the business behind the product and helping set them up for commercial success through every sort of comms touch point that we can help them with.
So is that what the average person would understand to be, PR or public relations? Can you explain that?
I think in simple terms, the sort of the cliche response that's often given is that PR is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So I guess the thought behind that is, advertising is what you say about yourself. It's your own tagline that you've come up with, that you've popped on a billboard. But what does the consumer and what does the market actually believe about you? So when you're not there projecting your message to people, what are they actually saying about you at the barbecue? What are your consumers saying to their mates about you? What's that general perception that you have out in the market? So PR is typically trying to influence that in a positive way on behalf of your organization.
Can you explain then, what's the difference between PR and marketing and advertising? Because do they not all have the ability to shape or help people understand what they think about a product or a business or anything, really?
It's a really good question, because they do all overlap, and it's a mistake to think of them as discrete things. Like you've got PR over here, you've got advertising over here, and you've got marketing over here. They definitely are all part of the same integrated mix where you're trying to achieve a result on behalf of a business. But in saying that, as disciplines, there's pieces to it where you're doing different things. So, it's been a while since I was in uni, but when you're in a marketing class and they talk about the 4 Ps of marketing, and you've got price, fiddling with what you actually charge for your product or service to affect a result in the market. You've got product, so the thing you're actually selling, how that shows up, what it looks like, how you tweak it through R&D. You've got place, where you're actually distributing, how you're accessing the market. And then the last P is promotion. And I think when people think about marketing, they're often just thinking about the promotion piece of it. And the promotion piece of it really is the overlapping part where you've got PR doing a bit of promotion, you've got promotion via advertising, and obviously you've got the marketers themselves working to promote the business. But any marketer will tell you that, you know, what they do is a lot more nuanced and broad than just promotion. And the same is true of PR. So when people think of PR, they typically think of a positive story being placed in the media on behalf of a company. But there's also lots of other, you know, strings to the PR bow, which might include stakeholder engagement. It might include executive council. It might include internal communications. Basically, everything that you can do on behalf of a business to shape perceptions across all of your touch points. And so clearly that's not just a promotional effort. There's a lot more involved in it, and it's a lot more of a holistic approach.
Right. Now, can we put ourselves in the shoes of, say, business owner? And I'm thinking about, you know, founders, entrepreneurs, SME business owners possibly watching this. And they're thinking to themselves, okay, I got that, PR versus marketing. But what are some of the, you know, tangible or benefits that a business owner could expect, or do they often expect? Let's say that they're thinking about, okay, growing awareness for their business or trying to move the needle in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Often about to do with increasing awareness so that they can sell more product, basically, get more customers.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I do PR, whatever PR means, what are some of those benefits that maybe I could expect or be hoping to achieve?
I mean, the simplest way to put it, and what I typically say to people that are considering this for the first time and have just never done anything in this space, and you know, it's a bit of an oversimplification, but it's a good one. You can't buy what you haven't heard of, you know? So if you are in the business of selling something, people will not buy it if they don't know that they can. And so that is a challenge that you have to address as a business. And what lever are you going to pull to do that? You know that you need to connect to an audience in order to sell. How are you going to do that? Are you going to pay for Google ads? Are you going to book billboards? Are you going to try and get in the newspaper, try and get a story on NZ Entrepreneur? Are you know, what levers are you going to pull to make sure that you're maximizing the number of people that actually know that you exist as an option and can therefore purchase your product? And when you start to consider that, it quickly becomes apparent that there are a million different ways you can do that. And so then you start to think about, you know, what's the most efficient way for the business to reach an impactful audience? And that, for many businesses, is where PR becomes really attractive, because often what we're talking about is earned media, earned awareness. So helping tell a really interesting story that cuts through organically, and therefore you're not having to pay a media outlet for that to land most of the time. And so another way of expressing that is a business comes to us with a brief, and it's a 3-word brief: make us famous. You know, and why do you want that? It's because when you're famous, more people know you exist, they can buy your product. And I think, you know, that's probably the simplest expression of what most people actually want when they're thinking about PR. They want lots of people to know who they are, and they want people to know it in the most cost-effective way possible.
Just thinking about, you know, when this could be useful for a business. And as you point out, yes, as a media outlet ourselves, you know, a lot of people approach us. They want to tell us about their new business that they're working on, they're about to launch. They're trying to build awareness for the launch, potentially to, you know, assist with raising funds from investors. You know, the more people that know about the opportunity, the better. What are some other times though where you know, a business can or should be thinking about potentially adding PR into their strategy for growing awareness?
there are lots of different trigger moments for businesses. And I think there are lots of moments that some businesses don't even think about as moments. So, an interesting one that occurs semi-frequently for a lot of businesses of various types, on the stakeholder engagement front, where you might not even twig to the fact that this is something that you need help with. But say you're some sort of a manufacturing business and you have a big factory that you need to build, and it's going to be disruptive for the neighbors in the area, and that could cause some kickback. You might not have even thought about this, but that's going to cause disruption, and that's actually a communications issue for you as a business. Because if you set up shop and from day one you've got all these annoyed neighbors who resent your existence, that's actually that's a really strong impediment to your success in the immediate future as a business. So and that's one example. There are lots of different trigger moments that are potential communications challenges for businesses, and a lot of them vary based on the scale of your enterprise and where you are in the journey. Some of the unfortunate moments that businesses have are something has gone wrong in the business, and how do we manage that moment, and how do we do it in a way that's sensitive and it's not disruptive to our staff and our stakeholders, and ensure that we're putting our best foot forward. And that's a really common thing. And we both know, and the people listening to this know, that lots of business owners are good people when they have something go wrong and they need some help managing that moment, particularly if you've got a reporter asking you about it, or you've got some vocal members of your local community who are particularly concerned about what's happened. And so that's another moment where it's not actually about selling a product or selling your business, but it's just helping you manage something that's happening organizationally and all the communications needs around that.
Can we talk about this whole business of becoming famous, especially in the context of building a business? I think there may be some perceptions amongst business owners that just may not match reality. One of those is around, what exactly do you need to do to become famous? And let's say, if it's what you're wanting, get your business on, let's say, the breakfast show on TVNZ, or get an interview with Mike Osking, or a lead article in the National Business Review. What do they need to do? Like, can they do it themselves? Is it as simple as just build a good product and one day someone's going to come knocking and want to interview you?
Yeah, I think the truth is that if you're doing something sufficiently compelling, that has sufficient public interest just by the fact that what you're doing is awesome, you probably can get yourself in the media yourself. Whether you can do that consistently and in a strategic manner over time, that's a different thing. But something that has inherent news value has that news value, right? And what's much harder is if you're competing with a bunch of other crowds and they're all you're not just competing in terms of dollars, but you're competing in terms of attention. How do you make that happen? How do you cut through? How do you connect with audiences in the myriad different ways that we have available to us now, when your time is better spent thinking about the operational concerns of your business? And so that's why businesses work with firms like ours, because you've got somebody who is dedicated to thinking about how do we make this brand show up in a really consistent and positive way over and over again, which has this really profound incremental effect for the business over time.
Yeah, because of course, the business, if it does well, hopefully is going to be around for a long time, many years, rather than just a year or two when they launch and everything's exciting.
Yeah.
So, cool.
I mean, another way to think about it is, and again, it's a simple truth, but no matter what your product is, you know, whether you're a really cheap lolly or a really expensive luxury vehicle, the vast majority of people in the market are not in the market for your product at the moment, right? That's just the obvious logical truth. And what you're doing when you're building awareness is you're planting a seed in their brain so that one day when they are in the market, it's you that they think about. That's why it's important for brands to be as famous as they can be, because you know, the average consumer is not thinking about you right now. But someday down the line, they're going to be buying a fizzy drink, they're going to be buying a car, and you want to be the brand that comes to mind for them. And, you know, if you haven't put in that groundwork of trying to build that awareness, then you're just not in the frame.
Awesome. Now, OnePlusOne Group is celebrating, well, 10 years, which is a fantastic achievement by anyone's measure. So congrats, firstly. I wonder if you can share, just to round things off, anything that you've seen or noticed, or in terms of changes in sort of the PR game, so to speak, that, you know, maybe business owners watching this can you know, take away or bear in mind when they're considering how to make their businesses famous.
Yeah. I think, you know, none of this will come as any surprise to anybody. In every sector, the big sort of macro trend has been digital transformation and what that has meant in your particular niche of the world. And, you know, in the business of media and public relations, what that has meant is this incredible fragmentation of audiences and how you connect with audiences and what you need to do to make that happen. So, you know, even as recently as 10 years ago, you could get one piece of coverage on 7 Sharp, for instance, and reach half the adults in the country. You know, you're reaching a massive buying market. It's not that simple anymore. You have to earn or pay your way into lots and lots of different outlets and platforms and collectively stitch together the audience that you would have achieved in the past. And that's a much more strategic and complex challenge than it was 10 years ago. And so that takes some thinking about. It doesn't just happen by magic. Sometimes a particular product or brand or personality will just be the right thing at the right time, and they'll have this moment where it gets picked up everywhere. But most of the time when you see something and you have that feeling like, gosh, I've seen that everywhere today, it's because somebody's worked very hard to make that happen. It doesn't just happen.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, Max, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us today. Congrats again to OnePlusOne Group, celebrating just over 10 years now, but those were some really useful insights. So yeah, that was Max Burt, General Manager at OnePlusOne Group. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, man.